welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast.
At what age do we learn how to have better conversations? At what age do we learn to have better conversations with ourselves?
Boy, mates, welcome to the Junkyard Love Podcast. Today's recommendation of something else to watch is Jordan Greenhall Deep Code, the documentary, and that is on the Rebel Wisdom YouTube page. It's an interview and conversation with Jordan Greenhall. Great perspective on the state of the world. Check that out. Definitely worth it. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This one's with Brandon Cruz. We did it over video chat, as I'm kind of trying out video chat and trying to keep the podcast plugging along in the best way that we can. It's not as good, it's not as connective as an in-person conversation, but we definitely got to some great subjects. He actually he has his own podcast, and the format for this one was kind of him interviewing me. So I kind of have an opportunity to go into a little bit more depth on some of the concepts that I work with and some of the concepts that I am still kind of creating and conceptualizing. But I think they could help a lot of people, or hopefully somebody. So let's get rolling with the podcast. If you're listening to this right now and you have not drank water in the last 30 minutes, what are you doing, man? Drink some water. Enjoy. Okay.
Hit record.
Okay, I'm recording.
We'll hit a bong rip.
Okay. The bong rip sound will be the intro.
It should be the intro. Just
I'm gonna Little Wayne lighter flick it.
do you think that's an awesome thing to do? Yeah.
3, 2.
Wow, that sounds so nice.
The whole thing
It just catches up in flame. If you put a cough drop in and you rip a bong, will it subside the coughing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to test that theory right now.
It also gives you a form of lung cancer from the menthol. So.
Oh, yeah. I want to just dump a whole pack of cough drops in my bong and rip it.
Dude,
and see if it's like the
to be honest,
smoothest
that would probably be
hit you can ever have in
surprisingly
life.
delightful.
It probably would taste so good, too.
Yeah.
Bong water is absolutely gross, but cheers, mate.
All right, cheers.
3, 2, 1. Oh, I'm such a puss with pongs.
I'm not.
That's surprisingly tastes really good. Oh man, what's going on, Jacob Rhines?
Hello, buddy.
Hi, this is Wild Productions. Brandon Cruz with Wild Productions, taking on all things media and apparently bong related. Today we're talking with one of my really great friends, Jacob Rhines, who has dedicated his life to music production, sound design, and creating music, and also being an inspiration to the people as far as mental health and just being an absolute badass for people in life and just giving them something to wake up for and an inspiration to bounce back from the depths of a dark mind. Jacob Bryant.
Hello, man. Thanks for having me. This is cool.
Is that a good intro for you? I feel like I could have done a little bit better, but I mean,
I feel like that's good. You know, it's so difficult to describe yourself, like in one sentence, in one paragraph, in one podcast. Like afterwards, you just like, what? I don't know. Like, what do I represent? I'm kind of circling in on my like life quest, you know, like there's going to be this one sentence, like I want to stand for this and I believe in ending the suffering of humanity, you know, like there will be some sort of end goal, but I think I'm still circling it. I have my hands and interest in so many different things.
At the moment, do you have a life quote for yourself?
At the moment, I don't know, the word resilience popped into my head just now, but I don't know. I I believe. I don't know. I guess I believe in. I wrote this thing the other day. I'll spitball it off the top of my head. It was on my Instagram, but just about believing in magic and believing in dreaming big and believing in
Mm.
yourself and believing in spirit and believing in like the greater good of humanity. Um, just just
You have to change the background
creators.
when you say that.
Yeah,
You got to change the
yeah.
background when you
Oh,
say that
let's
again.
see, dude. Yeah,
Space
I
one for sure.
believe. I believe in circling the Earth on the planetary orbit.
Oh man,
So ridiculous. I love having this option.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
You look amazing. You're like a
Thanks,
space
man. This is my
Jesus.
space outfit. I'm Space Jesus, bitch. That's a good rap name. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, there's already an EDM guy that's Space Jesus, and he's killer.
Oh yeah. I like the photo of Space Jesus just floating around in space. Or is there actually like a
No, he's like an actual like EDM guy, I think.
I love that. Like I love
It's
that
so
people can
his
just make
music's
up
good
whatever
too.
names they want.
It sounds so cool too. I mean, like life quotes are cool, but could you imagine walking around and everyone calling you Space Jesus?
It would go to my head, absolutely.
Dude, that would be amazing.
I'd have a huge ego. Bigger than I already do.
Is it first name Space, last name Jesus, or is
First name Space, last name Jesus.
it?
Like a sprained ankle bitch. I'm not
You ain't
being
nothing. No,
facetious.
you're not. You can't walk on me.
Oh yeah.
You can't walk all over me.
We're always just writing raps. I actually you and I have written some rap together for fun. I think it's a great outlet actually.
Mhm.
I wrote 2 days ago. I had this loop that I made. It's like first thought that I had. And I was like, cool, let's just go with that. And I recorded it, looped it, and I sat down here for probably 2 hours and just got like just one page. That's all I got in 2 hours. But it was less to like write a song and more to um, kind of like just work through some stuff. Like sometimes you don't know what you think.
Yeah.
So you start writing it down. And
And
I think it's also fun. We've done it before too.
Yeah, it's definitely a different avenue of thought and thinking. I think that goes like with any sort of art form. You're like, whoa, I can't use my like everyday thoughts to try and figure this thing out. Especially with rap, you're like, I mean, the beat is there, and you're just like, I have a blank book to just say absolutely anything I want. The hell do I want to say? And no, it's cool. I definitely want to try to get into that a little bit more, and just kind of experiment, just for like art's sake, and just taking a break from the everyday art form that we're so accustomed to.
Right.
But I don't think I ever asked you, how did you get into the arts and being an artistic person, and how did this all come about?
Wow. I think well, back even in middle school, I had an interest in acting. That probably sprouted it. I had this teacher, this language arts teacher, who was also the drama teacher, and I just thought he was the coolest person. And he just liked music, and he liked. We had like a play that we did. And so I did plays, and then I've always just kind of been into like music. After that, I was a big Walkman kid. I was just always had headphones on. I liked all kinds of music. So that inherently leads you into like more artistically thinking, I suppose. And then as I grew older in high school, I was in like acting classes and stuff, and in drama, I enjoyed acting there. But I was also social too. And so I don't know. I think that's where DJing come in. It's weird because I feel like I have an artistic side. But I also have like a social side in there, like not super inherently balancing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird because the amount of time that you spend creating is like quadruple the amount of time socially talking to people, being like an actual person. You're like, holy shit, I can go like 8 days. I can go like 8 days straight, 8 hours alone in my office and just like be fine.
Oh,
and then someone's like, hey, I want to hire you to DJ 300 person party, you're like, holy shit, I haven't talked to anyone in 8 days.
Yeah, 300 people.
Like,
That seems like a lot
I got to entertain some people.
If there was 4 in here right now, I'd be uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
300.
They're all just staring at you too. Like, for some reason, they don't all stand together.
Yeah.
Even if there's 4 people that show up, they're all in different areas of the room. So it feels like you're just like,
they're shouting at me.
Yeah. And if they're having a good time, it's still weird.
Yeah, because they're not communicating with each other, just at me.
Yeah, just you.
Yeah.
And they ask you questions to ask the other people instead of asking them each other.
Yeah.
You're just like the middleman in all this.
Relaying. This is so uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable just thinking about people in here right now. Just.
Have you ever been thought about as like, it's so weird, but not necessarily as a person. Like if I'm in a club and there's like shit going on, like I'm feeling myself, I'm around all these other people, and then you go up to the DJ like requesting a song or something like that. I don't know if people do that now or whatever, but like I've done it before. Like went up, asked them to play this, which I know is kind of annoying sometimes, but for a DJ. But when I see them as like not a person, but like an element of like what is all going on. Mm-hmm. Do you like ever feel like that? I don't know if I explained it right, but
yeah, it's kind of like the narrator of the story. Mm-hmm. If there was, let's say if there's an alien in space, let's put this on really quick. If there's an alien in space and he's looking down, he's got a telescope perhaps, and he's looking through, and he could see the party, like the building. There's no roof on the building, and through him, the alien up there, he's like looking down, kind of observing this. This level. So there's the people in the crowd, as they're moving throughout the night through. Man, I feel like I went too far when I was talking about the alien part.
No, I feel like I get that analogy more than like anything else.
Because you know where I'm ending. So I'll continue. Yeah. So essentially, I'm controlling the vibe. Like I'm not a participant at the party. I'm not a part of the conversations. I'm not. I'm controlling where the conversations may go. So I'm kind of sitting above all the vibes. I'm not just looking out for what songs I want to play personally, like my egoic self, my I, who I grow up as, my interests, my personalities, like those play a part in it. But at some point I kind of let go of that and I allow it to be this other sort of being that's floating above, and kind of taking a glance and like listening in, like what are these 6 people in this booth talking about? Okay. Talking about that. What are these 6 people who just walked in wearing? Okay, they're wearing that. They're this age.
And what's their energy and what's their tone and stuff like that.
Yeah, like what time of the night is it also? Because that, like, you can play the exact same thing at 11:30 p.m. that you played. You can try that on Friday and it goes off, and then you play the same thing at 10 p.m. because you did it a little too early on Saturday night, and it's a total nobody even's tapping their foot. So it's time and place, certainly. So you kind of have to let go of your interests kind of influence you, and that's kind of what builds your computer, what builds your sound, what builds your library, your crates. Like that's the crates that the DJ comes with, is kind of his playlist, and he's basing his playlist off of like, okay, here's my style and here's what I know I'm probably going to see tonight. But then as the night progresses, you're like, oh, okay, there's this kind of people here tonight. I was expecting more of the older crowd, so I would have played this sort of thing. But instead you're kind of sitting back and trying to observe what people's vibes are, if they're trying to get buck wild right now, if they're not, they're trying to just hang out. And
it's just around. I think that's why it's so surreal, is because you literally, from like our perspective, we're like looking up at a DJ and they're like just getting down, like getting in the flow of like the actual music, but then also they'll like look up and you'll just see them like interacting with the crowd. And realistically, you're like, oh, yeah, you guys like this shit? Yeah, you do. Let me see. What are you going to like next? Yeah.
That's what I'm whispering to myself.
Yeah, you guys like this, huh? Hey, watch this shit. Right. You guys like that shit, don't you? And then everyone goes, yeah. And then you're just like, God damn, I'm good. Back to it. And it is just the coolest thing ever, like seeing that. Like you're playing this calculated game on top of vibing out and like doing your craft as well too. It's so cool.
Right.
It's very strategic looking from.
Yeah, it's kind of like a meta cognition of like you're kind of leaving your body in a strange way, like because you're trying to like you're not trying to interact with the individual people, you're trying to interact with the vibe of all of the people, and there's two different things. And sometimes when someone comes up, that's why sometimes even just someone requesting is enough, even if they're nice and it's a good request, it's enough to pull you out of that, like from way up here, like
that flow state.
Yeah. So, but it's hard because, you know, there's different parties and different vibes. And sometimes you got to show up as someone who is in their headphones the whole time, just mixing and doing your own thing. And sometimes you got to show up as someone who's, you know, a quarter of the time you're leaning in and getting the person on the other side is paying you. So you're doing what they want you to be doing. And these are different assets you have to, or facets of DJing that you kind of have to, like
the difficulties that you have to maneuver through, instead of like, I think it's so funny, the average person and the average creator usually have this interaction. I don't know how many times in a creator's life, but they'll come up to you and degrade your work based on like simple knowledge. Like they could literally be like, what's the problem? You can't take the picture? I can push a button on a camera and take a picture. It's like, it's not that simple, man. Like, and then you try and walk them through it and they're like, so what? You like flipped a few dials, you flip a few dials all the time and then take a picture. I could do that too. And it's just like, oh my God, you guys have no fucking clue. You guys have no clue, and you make me want to just deliver one of these. It hasn't happened often, but when it does, it's one of those special moments where you're like, you really don't know shit about this, dude. It's not. Sorry, go.
Well, it's the lack of awareness. After a while, like people being able to step out of their own shoes in a way, and have awareness of a different type of person that thinks differently than them and truly knows more than them. So like, if you're not willing to admit that, like, hey, like I am the foreman at this lumber mill, and I'm a badass, and people listen to me, and I've been the boss for 13 years, and I know my shit. So you should listen to me because you're just a dumb photographer. That guy, when you're too caught up in your rewards and your titles, when that's too attached to what yourself is, when you approach someone in a situation where they're completely different than you are comparing your knowledge to the knowledge that you think you know about them. So they think they know about photography, and so they're like, I know everything about photography, or good enough amount to know that I'm smarter than you. So they're going to come at you as like a taller than you person looking down on you. And so it's almost like I don't know. I suppose they just don't see eye to eye. Like you just kind of have to assume that, oh yeah, this person, they're not actually insulting my camera abilities. They literally have not learned. They haven't took time to learn throughout their, however old they are, 54 years of life, that how to understand people on a different emotional level, how to look at people introspectively, how to not, they haven't learned the skill that you have to be able to see, like, oh, you're just a different person who misunderstands me. It's not as simple as you think it is. That may have not made much sense, but
no, that made a lot of sense. But everyone at some point or another has gotten themselves in that experience, whether it be creating or not, just a dominant person trying to diminish you with a certain persona. With creating and with being a DJ, have you had to face those people, and did you how did you handle it, basically? Like, did you use more aggression, or did you just like step back and be like, it's not even worth my time, like I'm just gonna get beyond this and move forward?
I mean, sometimes like there's parts where like sometimes I'll be a little cocky. Like I've also improved over the years. I started DJing. I've been DJing for I don't know, 8-9 years or something like that. So I've improved just like my ego, not like having such a quick reaction. So I have had times where someone has been rude and they're just being immature, and like I get to where I'm like, someone needs to make sure this person knows that their actions are not okay, because if they're doing this to me, how do they treat like a Starbucks worker or a grocery store employee? I just kind of really wonder. And so I have had experiences where I was playing a couple songs. As I was mixing, I started to notice that like the person on the dance floor was literally like going like this. He was booing, he was thumbs down, and he started going boo boo, next song. And it was because he didn't personally like that song. And I was like giving him kind of a look, and then eventually it boiled up quicker than it should have, and I cut off the music completely, and I was like, excuse me. And I had like this sort of like, you realize you're not the only person here, there's plenty of people in this room that that are just as welcome as you are to be here. Essentially, he like got very embarrassed, started kind of like arguing back, and then it turned into security threw him out. So it's like not a big deal, but it was sort of like I punked him. And so I've done that and try to like brought them down. And so that's like a huge ability that a DJ has, like turn a building on a person, which is like kind of cruel, really. That like is, but it's
you want to see who's big, boom.
Right. And then there's people like, wait, like who's being mean to Jake, you know, like because it was a local place that I played. But so that's kind of like there's some parts of you that sometimes need those, excuse me, it seems as if you're not understanding your place. Like it seems as if I'm sorry, you're talking down on me, sir. I believe that you're treating me as a jukebox. I believe that you're forgetting that I'm a human. Some people take different things to learn those sort of things. Sometimes a drunk person who is like telling you about this thing and telling you about that thing and telling you what you're doing wrong, or in your face, or you say, please, no, I will not take that request, or no, I can't do that, please leave. A lot of strangely, something that happens a lot with drunk people is you tell them no, and they don't compute. Their brain says what, and they stand there in front of the DJ booth, like they stand there and just and they look right at you. Like I'm like typing in, and I'm going through. This happens often. This is weddings, this is clubs, this is bars, this is private events. Like,
bro, what?
Drunk people. I'm not kidding. It's a kind of not a normal thing. Like it happens every night, but when this happens, when you tell people no in whatever way. And so I'll reiterate. So that was one example that I gave where I turned off the music, kind of dorky, kind of egoic, right? It felt great. Of course it felt great. Stroke your ego. But there's also a point of just leveling with them and just look at like, so I've had times at weddings where like an older person is like, this is not acceptable. You cannot play this. And I've had to be like, sorry, sir, listen, this was a special request from your son. I would love it if you didn't go over to him and try to duke this out. Essentially, I was playing I think I was playing an Afro Man song at a wedding. It was later in the night, and there wasn't communication between the person who requested it, which is the groom. He's paying me. It's his wedding. I'm playing it, of course. And like someone's father, someone's uncle, something like this. And he was angry. He's like, this is not acceptable for you to play this. Like, just very, very mad. And I had to meet him with, please understand the situation. The person who is paying me, the person who I've had contact with, I've never met you in my life. You're just telling me that you're this person as of today. So you are saying what you want is more important than what the person who is paying me. So it's kind of this like breaking of a barrier again. Like I have to stand up for myself as a person, but I also have to represent myself as a business, as my own business. And then I also have to not cause this bigger eruption, this bigger problem of sending this guy who's angry about the song I'm playing over to the groom who's rapping his face off with his best friends from college on his own wedding day, you know? Like, so it's a strange dynamic. So it's, you know, it seems like it's just music, right? But if you're really paying attention, you're kind of trying to hold everybody's everything in
intact and give everyone a little bit of what they want and just keep the vibe going. It's just, it's crazy how people will confront you with confrontation. Like they will literally walk up to you. That's never made any sense to me. For some reason, I don't understand how you can not know someone absolutely at all. And for this instance, a song starts playing that doesn't resonate in your head, but it resonates elsewhere. You literally come up to a stranger with like hostile demeanor and say like, hey, you need to shut that shit off. Like, what?
Right.
Like, who are you?
Yeah.
And you're just like, how does that, from this point to that point, is there any justification for that? Or like, have you known people that are like that, or like
they're lost in the maze. They're lost in their maze, man. They're like I said, sometimes you could say something, sometimes it could be dramatic, sometimes it could just be like, hey, listen, it seems as if you're having a problem being told no right now. And that's enough for them to be like, whoa, like their momentum stops, like this wall of like, oh shit, like they're so in their head, like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna tell him this and I'm gonna whatever, like whatever they had momentum on, that thought, they identified themselves with that thought and they got momentum with it, and and which to me is being caught in your own maze of sorts. And sometimes it's somebody else's maze, like go tell him that this song sucks, and you're like, yeah, this song sucks, because you grab onto someone else's maze that they laid out for you. And so oftentimes just, I don't know that there's an excuse for it, but I think that being able to realize that you're caught in your maze. So if someone does say like, hey, like, so if someone came up to you and they're like, hey, can you, like you're standing in the way, you're an idiot, like what do you think you're doing? You're not supposed to be back here. Like they're just like insulting you, and you're like, what do you like? And you're like, excuse me, instead of saying, no, Susan said that I can be back here. Like instead of doing that, instead of interacting with the maze coordinates that he told you to meet him at, right? You look above the maze, you look into the maze, and not looking down on him, but you look at the situation and you say, oh, it seems that you have a misunderstanding of who I am. And by that, I mean, I'm actually the photographer. I have permission to be back here. I'm totally not in your way. I can step over to the side. Like you can kind of tell him like, no, I'm the photographer. I have permission to be here, whatever. And then all of a sudden, instead of just fighting back with him and meeting him at his coordinates, at his battleship coordinates, and sitting down at the table,
or he's about to
play the game,
push the button.
Yeah,
he's getting ready to push that button.
Yeah, don't let him push the button. You know, like don't give him the button to push of yours. Just instead say, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. You're just confused. He's not. Don't say this guy's inherently a dick, because then all of a sudden you have to fight. You have to argue with a dick. And nobody wants to argue with a dick. So don't tell yourself that he's inherently a dick. Say, oh, he must be stressed too because his daughter's getting married, because he's the owner of this club and it's not busy. Or maybe he's stressed because he is this first day on the job and he's actually the security guard and he was told that nobody's allowed back here, and here you are. Like, you can't just assume that someone's a jerk. You gotta assume that, like, look at the situation. Like,
there's what are bigger circumstances at play.
Yeah. And it's, it's a training you could do. Really, you see those situations in front of you, and you end up laying the path for yourself to do the same later.
I think that's what's so cool about you and your way of experiencing the world and really taking it in. On Instagram, you're constantly posting like inspirational videos, quotes, posts. You're talking yourself about ideas that you have. A lot of them go along with the lines of like that temperament and like checking yourself, also like just being very consciously aware of what comes out of your mind, what comes into your mind. And I don't know, you've just done a bunch. So it's really cool to see that you have a great way of implementing it in your life. And so it then begins to resonate with people and make sense. Like you literally be like, I was thinking the other day that I was at a gig and some dude came up to me and I had to check myself and be like, hey, maybe he's had a rough day or maybe something's going on. And you meet him at a place, you kind of guide him to a place where it's like, how can you be mad at like a dude so calm and chill? And like you actually are controlling the situation by toning it down instead of not having control of the situation and toning it up. You know, it's because if you were to get angry, you'd literally be playing on his level. He's already mad. He came up to you mad. So that's his like, yeah, you're in his maze, dude. So tone it down and throw them for a curveball. Be like, whoa, like make them realize that, damn, I am a dick if I'm getting mad at this, like, just chill person, you know, this person who's coming at me just like a friend, basically, you know. So it's really cool to see that from you, and just to see you not only talk about it, but actually get to implement it. Shoot, I'm going to stop and start this real quick.
Oh, I thought that was, dude, I thought for a second that was like a home phone.
I am so glad the home phones don't exist anymore, dude. Oh my
Bro,
God.
I remember this. I think it was maybe it was, there's this thing that reminds me of
About time. Yeah, take another one.
Okay.
Change the space one too.
All right. Change it to the space one.
Every time the timer goes off, we have to take a hit. I forgot to mention that.
30 minutes.
Every 30 minutes.
Wonderful joy.
I know.
All right. Cheers.
Plenty enough time. Cheers. That was weak.
Dude, weed stores are open.
God damn, my bong sucks so bad. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just saying that weed stores are open. It's kind of like, I know we still have this like silly demeanor that's kind of hanging on weed. I can't wait till it's fully shaken off. I get that it's kind of it has a silly vibe to it. That's okay. But it is cool to see that weed stores, like who'd have thunk, like 10 years ago, someone's like, hey bro, there's going to be a pandemic.
Yeah.
But during that, the weed stores are going to be open. You'd be like, weed stores?
Dude,
what are you saying?
Groceries, hospitals, weed. And that's what's so funny about like reading these Facebook posts and whatnot. It's just like people are literally being like, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have weed right now. I'm getting so high and just like taking a nap or doing whatever.
Right.
They're just
trying to exist right now. Like just
and
trying to fucking be with yourself, man, and being with yourself. Sometimes you got to get a little stoned. Sometimes,
you know? And it just allows for I mean, obviously anything you do has an effect. And if you do it like nonstop all the time and that's the way you live your life, then it's going to start taking its like negative precautions. But like, that's your choice to do. Smoke weed like 24/7 and sit down and pick your belly button and like fucking play video games. Like,
dude, do you ever think about
like, sorry, you were going to say?
Probably.
I was just going to say, I get fucking stoned and like get so creative in my mind. And I'm just like,
that's a wonderful thing.
Stories and shit play in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, like I could film all this and I can do, you know, whatever goes on. It's just crazy that a lot of people waste their time and their creative ability when they smoke on like other shit that distracts them from what they could be doing. And it's crazy because you can see creativity in people by the way they talk and by the way they articulate themselves. And you'll be like, damn, bro, like you can describe a story in my head so well, like you could be a comedian, you know, or like you describe a story so well, you can probably take some video of it, like just learn how to record video. And like the idea is all you need. It's not the art of learning how to control the camera or the camera or anything like that. It's once you learn how to control the camera, what are you going to do with that control? And that is like what the art is. And so I feel like people get intimidated with the physical like knowledge of how to do something beyond the fact that like everyone has to deal with that. And once you know that, like it's known knowledge. You could just like picking up a guitar and just playing it again. Like now you can begin to explore like everything, like all your possibilities in your mind. So it's just weird to see. I know you're a very inspired person and a very dedicated person in creating content and creating art and like getting what's in your brain out. And so it's like, it's just really cool to see you when I go over to your place. Like we'll vibe out for like 8 hours and literally like blink and be like, what the fuck? What did we just do? Well, we created a song, we did a podcast, we like, you know, played the piano or like made some beats or like just whatever it is. I'm like, damn, that's nuts. Like,
right.
and we could just kind of vibe like that. So it's really cool to see that. And
Dude, do you think that it seems a little silly, you know, like I think like to be grown men, like, because that seems like some 17-year-old shit, like, you know, like get baked or even not get baked, like just hang out, you know, have a beer or come over, have food, and then also just take a few hours and just like, hey bro, like I was working on this little jingle, and start playing it for them, and then they start like, oh, okay, all right, and you just add to it, like it, you know, like those moments of kind of, you know, we call it childlike because that's the comparison of how we think we need to live in society, versus like that's the only thing we can think of that makes sense in that box. But it's kind of just like creating and just kind of freely vibing and allowing your friend to freely vibe and allow them to fully like them knowing that you're never going to judge them or make them feel weird for like just suggesting like, hey, what about this? Like really just opening that flow that we have such a constriction to, that we're taught to squeeze, and like, don't let that flow, and make sure you tighten up, and make sure you're polite, and make sure you don't say this thing on accident. Like letting that thing just unfold amongst a friend that you trust. I think it's kind of this childlike play, but it's also this just spirituality, really. It's a healing, it's a self-love, it's a flowing of who you really are, like when you're creating like that, because you're not really having standards for yourself. You're living in the present. You're not trying to be anything. You're just kind of just letting it happen in front of someone too. So that's very empowering. You know,
it's just odd because I think the oddness in it comes from like, it takes a lot to be able to create. It takes a lot of vulnerabilities out of you, like to express what is in your mind and know that others may not perceive it the way you do. And you just have this anxiety of like, oh my God, like what will they think if I say that this verse should be in the song, or say that they should change their piano to this sounding, or whatever it is. Like it's very, it's just super scary for a lot of people. And I think that's what's so weird about like being able to go over and kick it with you, is like we can go for like 8 hours and like I feel 100% just chill and fine, and knowing that like any thought that I have is like not a degraded thought. It's literally a thought to get to another part of the project or part of whatever it is. It's like, I think that's what people are so scared of. I think it is this judgmental vibe that other people give each other, because it seems so weird to me that a lot of people can't spend like 8 hours with another person. It doesn't have to be 8 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours, but they can't spend that amount of time and create, but they could spend that amount of time play video games and like kind of do mindless things that take their mind away from like having like actual like very intimate like creative things happen. You know what I mean? Like it's not intimate in like a weird way. It's literally like intimate, and it's like you are literally giving yourself as a creative mind out to the universe, and having another person at the same time like check it and see like, hey, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that, maybe we can do this, maybe you know, you come in here, I come in here. Like it seems so weird that it's so abnormal to have that deep human interaction with others.
Well, what do you think? Like, so yeah, I was just thinking about like two homies who are hanging out like online playing video games. But they're both like, yeah, they're hanging out, but like they're not really like you know, occasionally maybe they're talking crap, they're talking about the game, like they're inserting themselves into the game, and like, oh dang, you shot me, or oh dude, okay, I got that guy, you head over here. Like they're in the game. They're making up like I guess you could say maze again, but this one isn't like a bad one, I suppose. So that's how they're hanging out. Like they're making like maybe a third person that's in the video game, or a third version of themselves or something that's in the video game. And the third versions of themselves are interacting in the video game. They're kind of shut off, mindless, just like, and their fingers are moving.
They're in like a lull, you know?
Yeah. And then, but when you're kind of following someone else's direction. So you're doing what the video game creators have. You're within only the limits, the box, the you can't step outside of the video game. Like as you're shooting in this war game, you can't not only have like Kirby can't all of a sudden come in your view, but you also can't have like your mom walk into the video game. Like it's not possible. You're in this other thing that's been created for you. So therefore it has boundaries, right? So you're locked within the boundaries, but you're still having a companionship with someone. So it's great. That's a cool thing. I pointed out for a reason, I think. But and then you look at hanging out with someone, like just say what we're doing or what we were doing, just creating. So where we do have I guess confinements in the same way, right? Like whatever piano or whatever instrument I have, whatever tools we're given, whatever influence we have had that day, like we're all kind of locked within those sort of bubbles. But we are able to, when you and I are being creative, we're able to kind of create a third sense in that same way. Like we're not as confined. We're kind of tapping into something a little more pure to each of us, and we're both like in like, hey, like what do you think about this? And before I'm done saying that sentence, like you'd be like, I love that, I totally get that. Like you almost are. It's this weaving of trust for another human.
But also it's like, I like to think of it as like the Avatar reference is like plugging the hair in as like when you create with someone else, you're literally like plugging into this third being and like connecting, and they're connecting from their side, and it's like channeling like everything together. So you guys are both, no matter what it is that people do, like when they create with others, they all get into this flow state. And that's what's so enticing about it. Like if you're in a studio with people and there's like 5 of them and they're all working towards creating a song, it's like 5 people just like all in one, just synced up all together in this flow state. And it's just crazy.
Yeah. Like a band. Do you ever take photos or videos for bands?
I have before.
Oh yeah, you literally have here.
Yeah.
So you've seen it like where they get into this, they're not saying anything. Their mouths are only speaking in lyrics and humming and stuff, but their fingers and they're so they're not actually saying anything. They're not sign languaging. They're all in their own zone, but they're looking at each other like, okay, and they said a million words. Like they're creating almost another vibe, which we can say is the band's name, right? Like so there's 3 people. Jake and Eric, and together they create Roastan. But what is Roastan? Yeah, it's a band, but if you really want to try to understand what it really has the capacity to be, you can look at it as a separate sort of thing, a separate thing floating above them that has a
separate entity. Where did you come up with that, like the third idea? Because I've heard you say it a bunch of times, and every time it resonates is like as the situation comes. Like how did you come to that insane thought?
Yeah, it was weird. I was reading a lot of crazy books. I think it started I was incredibly depressed for a lot of years, and I was starting to get better, and I was starting to like fight back, sort of like this sort of like your life sucks and everything that happens to you deserve. All of a sudden I started creating this like voice that was like, no, fuck, stop, no. And I think for a lot of people what that is, maybe they've lost touch with they're like confused which voice is what, but I think for a lot of people that may be like spirit, like their God. Like, so say if you're born in a Christian family, that like when you're feeling sad, God's always with you, and you try to think of this like, so I heard this voice and it was God, and he said everything's gonna be okay. Like my understanding is that we create that, we create however we can understand that, but my backed up understanding is kind of we created ourselves, like from our personality and our experiences and some breaking point, whatever. So essentially I created this kind of like caregiver, I suppose, right? Like
there's consciousness,
another person, like and through that, I don't know. So I was reading some strange books, and I was reading, I think, a book called Psychosomatics, and that was super interesting. And it started making me like realize that you kind of have an observer of your thoughts. Like there's so what I had done at first is try to create like, I am the depressed self. Like that's who I felt like. I am very depressed. I'm wearing this ugly mask. Like I'm this like depressed person. And then so through that I was able to create this thing. Like all of a sudden I had this like, you know what, yeah, you're depressed, I'm just a depressed person, but start saying no. Start saying, but you could be better, but you can get better, you can make better choices, you could help yourself more, you can whatever. Like, so that created kind of a second. And I started kind of having this like, with my depression, I started having this like argument, I guess. Like this sounds strange, these sound like different people in my head, these sound like different voices. They're totally not that. It's just not like that.
Yeah.
But it's so I started having this, just like when I'd have a depressed thought, I'd have this like person who would stand up for me, and it was like me. Like it felt fickle, it felt fake for weeks and maybe even months. It felt stupid, I felt dumb, I felt embarrassed, but I was down here by myself, nobody to judge me but myself. And so I just kept it going, and I'd be like, you know what, no, you're feeling better, and I'd fix my posture. And then so over time I started learning more, reading more books. I started kind of like really understanding what I was dealing with more, and realizing that I'm neither the depressed person nor the person that is saying, no, don't be depressed, but I am the observer of those two thoughts. And it allowed me to really kind of, I suppose, step outside of what was happening in my mind and my body, and kind of not feel the need to not only feel. At one stage, I was just feeling that I was the depressed thoughts. And then my stage up from that, in, you know, the footstep up the staircase of healing, the path, I stepped on, a tough guy, a guy with some boxing gloves who's like going to fight that depression. And that did help me for quite some time. It helped me get brave and build my confidence back up and work on my masculinity and stand up for myself and whatever. But then eventually I came to this other, let's say third, who is the observer of these things, of watch, instead of all the time when like, okay, I have a bad thought, time to like fight with it and say, no, that's not a bad thought, like whatever. Why don't you just watch both of them happen and not interact with it? And that was that's kind of my third, and that's kind of how the observing mind works. And that's when I think that's when I first came up with the concept of the third. But as I was conceptualizing, I was listening to Jordan Green and Daniel Schmachtenberger, their
say that 10 times fast.
Daniel Schmachtenberger, man, he's massively intelligent. He was just on Eric Weinstein's the Portal podcast.
Oh, podcast,
yeah, man, he was just on that one. It's so good. But anyway, so I was listening to them, and then so they started talking about the concept of circling, and they were talking about kind of I don't know. They were talking about, if they didn't directly reference it, I apologize for skipping around here, but I'm getting to the point.
Yeah.
But if they didn't directly reference it, what they were talking about with, I think it was Jordan Green, made me realize that kind of when you're podcasting, you kind of create a third as well. Like how I was creating the third observer of my Jake's superhero, super cape side, my awesome future self versus my depressed, bad thoughts, I'm worth nothing self.
Snap and fight.
Third, yeah. When I created this third, it's a little bit like when I'm having this podcast, when I'm talking, we're talking and we're very deep into a conversation. When there's these people here, you're looking in their eyes, you're talking about what they're talking about, you're in agreements, you're kind of filtering each other's sentences together. It's braided, right? But also as I'm talking, I'm like, hey, and listener, if you're forgetting, here's where we're talking about this thing that means this. I'm also grabbing the listener, and the listener is the third, and the listener almost kind of like keeps you in check, right? Like this is kind of how some people put the concept of God, some people put the concept of if you're looking for spirit, I suppose it can kind of fit in there, but that's just being too broad. But essentially the listeners of a 2-person podcast are your third, right? And I think maybe that's it. So I don't over explain it. Maybe I should just end the explanation right there.
I got it.
And maybe you could talk.
No, I love hearing.
If I'm going on too
it's long. Such a hard. I was just gonna say it's such a hard concept to like try and portray, because a lot of the times it has to come to you I think you did a really good job of actually explaining it too, because you made it very simple to try and understand from a viewpoint what it's like. But a lot of people can't grasp it because they haven't had the feeling of like putting a second or a third in their mind and using that to counteract whatever negativity or whatever doubt you have in your life. Like, people don't understand the potential of this, that you can give yourself an alter ego in your mind that is an idea of the best version of yourself. And when situations come, you literally say like damn, I don't want to go to the gym right now. Okay, in my mind, like, Zach Wild's in the gym right now already. Like, he's fucking getting huge. Like, it sounds crazy, but why is it crazy if it works for your life? Like, nobody jumps in your mind and says like, you're fucking weird. You talk to another person in your mind. Like, no, I'm thinking about the idea of the best version of myself. I named it this. You don't have to name it if you don't want to, but just know that it's an idea that you have and an option to become the best version of you if you really want to listen to it. It's crazy because everyone knows you're constantly in a battle with yourself all day, every day, on the simplest choices. Like, the idea of a consciousness does not wow anyone. Like, you all hear the little voice in your head. Right. That's crazy enough. Like, that's crazy that a voice has no sound, but you can understand it. And it tells you what to do in situations, gives you urges to do them this way. Like, it's a random voice that gives you the easiest route. Creating a second, creating a third, not only can stray you away from that continuous easy thought, it can give you better thoughts, but it can also understand the situation that's going on in the third sense and analyze, all right, like, what is going on right now? I can either eat this cheeseburger, feel like absolute shit, or I can like work for like 10 minutes and make a salad and like eat way healthier. And like, such simple stuff as that is like are the hardest decisions for people to make in life. Like, overweight people literally will have the thought of eating a salad, but the temptation and the sound in their head, what they hear the loudest is like, just eat this cheeseburger. You know, it's so good. You know, you don't need it, but you are where you are already. What's the point of like eating another one? It's fine. You are where you are. You haven't lost 20 pounds. So you can use that conscience sound and create another one to beat voices in your head. It's insane, but like, the route that you're on is infinite as far as helping people to get over some of the hardest humps in life that they can possibly imagine. And it's nuts that it can come down to a voice that you created in your head. The possibilities are infinite. I'm not saying walk around the town and fucking say, I'm blah, 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 and I'm the strongest fucking person in the world. Like,
it's just not like, it's not like that.
It's not like that. And that's what people view it as. It's like, guys, chill out and just think for a second.
Right. Yeah. Because you just got to stop. You got to stop and become aware.
Yeah. Just become aware of this. I don't even ask you to say anything in response.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you can get up when I'm done and walk away. But just think for a second. Just listen. Don't talk.
Right.
Hit them with that. And then, it's just hard for people to grasp. I feel like it's impossible to explain it unless they just like, awaken to it one day.
Yeah. I think sometimes we can, what seems to happen a lot of times with thoughts like that. I mean, even becoming aware that you're thinking, not thoughts, observing thoughts. You're like, oh shit, like who's observing the thoughts? Like what? Even just that is something that's so new to people.
Yeah.
And it's almost scary in a way, right? It's almost unnerving. But that's just, that's your kind of, say, egoic mind trying to protect you from change, because change is, you're safe in your cave exactly how you are. your egoic mind wants you to continue to do the things that you know get you happy, like instead of instead of like setting up all of the things and going to the store and getting all the fabrics and getting all the arts and craft supplies you need to bring back home and have a date night with your girlfriend, you could get the same amount of like dopamine from just sitting there on your phone and scrolling, like, and your brain kind of knows that, like, you don't conceptually understand that. So it's just like we've just been trained to take the easy way out because of our, just, I suppose, our generation. Like, and I don't know if it's really just news. I'm not trying to blame it all on just phones, but
because Amazon's, because Uber, it's because Postmates, it's because all this shit is.
We found a way to really do all that shit really well. We've gotten food.
Yes.
We've gotten fucking whatever we want really, really well. Like, we get everything that we could ever need to happen right now.
It is the first time. It's the first time in human history that we have never had to hunt, wonder where our food is, and have it actually, like, not even hunt for it at the grocery store. Like, we can literally have it sent to us in our home. Like,
our odds,
it's reversed now. We have things, we have animals in packages coming to us.
Yeah, right.
Rather than going
opposite,
out
right?
and hunting this shit. That is so, like,
if
in human history, could you think of that?
Yeah, as a species, human history, you're exactly right. Like, think about it, if you're looking at like a timeline of like, okay, back in the 10th grade when you're learning about the history, you open the book and it's the whole thing all the way across. You're like, okay, this is when this happened, and then and then the influenza and the Great Depression, and then the coronavirus. Like literally, like, you right now are going to be on one of those lines one day, like for in a couple hundred years, like whatever their version of books are, you're going to be like, that's happening right now. And understanding that is like,
it's just nuts. Just thinking about history now more than ever is like, we are in one of the most special times in human history as far as like evolving into something that is like, it's like, what do you do if you don't have anything to worry about anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what is the human potential if we take away all distractions and we just, all we got to do is focus on work? What can we work to improve the human body, or just the human being in general? We're going to give you food. We're going to give you shelter. We're going to give you everything you need, shipped to you immediately when you need it. What are you going to do to help the human race become this, like what do people want the human race to be is the thing. Like, nobody's asked like anybody what they want it to be. They're just like, hey, we're just going to keep progressing until we just become a fucking robot, essentially. Like, we're like,
but
if
also
it comes,
we don't want to change.
Yeah, we don't want to change. We want to still keep that beating heart. We want to keep that mind. We want to keep that mind. But let me tell you this. What if I gave you a microchip in your head? You can still think, but now you can think with the internet. And it's just like, that sounds cool. Yeah. Like, the whole fucking world is just clapping and like, whoa.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, it's going to Bluetooth to your iPhone. Your iPhone is now your mind. It's like, this shit is you. And it's like, that's literally the direction we're going in. And everyone is fucking jogging with their eyes open, like, all the way there. Like, fuck, I'm not missing this.
It's weird to think, like, who are you without your phone? Like, if you were like exactly who you are now, like whatever the concept of I, self, me, you, your name, like who you live by, who's on your birth certificate, whatever, like that person, who would they be if they never got a phone? Like, whether this scenario could be that nobody ever had phones.
Oh, I gotta pause it real quick.
Okay.
And boom.
The scenario could be if you never had phones, or it could be that like you just never got a phone and everybody else around you did. Like, who would you be? Like, think about our interest, where we're influenced, the things that we buy, we're identified with, a lot of times our look. Things that we buy sometimes are sold to us because they're suggested to us as we're scrolling through. Whoever has the most money is selling that and putting that in front of you. It's just interesting. I just wonder, like when we connect to our, intuition, when we connect to our, like our self, like our knowing, our like, you know, are we really more than not only our influences around us and our the data that like big companies have on us, and how often we're being consumed by as we consume um,
Mhm.
all of this electronic wonderful stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, who are we? I don't know. Before that, are we somebody different? Like without our influences of 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 being grown up, of being raised by the people around us, and kind of just being influenced by them, and kind of repeating what your mom and dad and older siblings did
Mhm.
in some certain ways. And like you kind of watch this guy and you kind of do this. Like that is you in so many ways, but also is there something that's more you than that?
Mhm.
Before that, like, are you born with a you before any of the influence?
Mhm.
Like,
Wow, that would. But you is created based on your environment. You know what I mean, and based on their circumstances, and like a being with no circumstances at all is like there's an infinite amount of yous. That's why there's like trillions and trillions different versions of you, is because life is so split into every possibility exists at once. You know what I mean? So the you without any of these influences is just like nothing. You know, it just depends on what path that you took. And so, but I understand that what you mean when you say like, if you took your phone away, you'd be a completely different person. Like if someone threw you in a jungle and like left you with a spear and said like survive, you'd be a totally different person. Like we're all just a product of our environment, but at the same time, like guys, you do have control over how much time you're on your phone and how much time you're like literally spending on this shit, and like giving your undivided attention to it or something else. You can change like who you are as a being just by simply putting your phone down and realizing that like, holy shit, instead of laying in my bed for 30 minutes scrolling, I could have hit the gym. I could have taken a shower. I could have whatever, like, which leads to something else, which leads to something else. And you can literally split your path into the best you that you want to be just by being consciously aware that, hey, I'm on this shit a lot, and a lot of people are on it a lot, but it doesn't mean that I should, so it's
right.
I don't know,
What do you think about I feel like right there is where I always want to insert knowledge. For me, like I just like knowledge and learning new things is just so important, because it's like, I don't know, just being at that point and realizing right there is where you're like, okay, like I got to start learning more so I can empower like the better self. Like he's got to get smarter, he's got to get wiser, he's got to start taking care of himself, as if like you're like a father out in the woods and all of a sudden you have to like take care of a kid. Like you don't know how to take care of a kid, but now you have all the tools at your hand to take care of a kid. Like you can search whatever you want, you can read whatever books you want, like you can adapt. And so essentially I think I don't know, self-improvement seems like this thing, like a hobby, but I think that it's something that should be everybody's hobby, because it's improving that voice. It's taking that tough voice to the gym, and then after a while you start to kind of realize, I think that like the knowing that knows that this is good for you and knows that like you deserve the self-love anyway is kind of like the intuitive something. The something that
it's
you're born
just
with is there.
it's just so nuts, is because a great way to grow yourself is obviously to grow your mind, and like learning new things, having different thoughts, like just having a different approach to life is learning. It's not just like opening up a textbook and like reading this lull of knowledge that you're supposed to bring in. Like you have to look at everything as like, okay, like I'm eating healthier, that's growing because I'm becoming knowledgeable and aware of what I'm eating, and now I'm getting healthier, and I'm more susceptible to even grow knowledge is knowledge in its own. You know what I mean? So it's just depending on the way you look at it, but it's just so weird, is because we've literally gotten Adam's apple, you know what I mean? Adam and Eve's apple of knowledge. Like We can go on the internet and look up anything in the world at any point in time immediately. Like you're reaching into like the world's mind and like fucking just all right.
You can get whatever you want.
And we're all so dumb in a sense.
We don't understand that we have godlike powers.
Godlike.
Right now, literally one person can kill everybody right now. Like as easy as right now, you can go boop. There's another motherfucker who can go boop and like maybe not immediately kill everybody, but like he could send. I'm not saying there's a magic button like Dexter's laboratory. Fires all these missiles, but there is a form of like. So we have so much power as a human species now that we could like end all of this. Like you could fire this, which starts this guy to fire back, which starts this country to fire back, and it starts a whole war and we all die, whatever. It's just, man, I forgot how I jumped to that analogy on that one.
I don't know, but we missed a bong rip before this session. Just remember I had to pause it. We forgot it. I'm kind of scared at the moment, but I promised myself that for the people, I'll do this for you.
You gotta entertain the people while I'm gone. I'm gonna go.
I really have to pee too. These people, we're just gonna have to.
Well, how much longer you want to do?
Oh, I'm just gonna chop this little middle part right here. In 3, 2, 1, boom, it's chopped. Oh, you just sent me another picture of your puppy. That's so cute.
Yeah, man.
That's fucking cute dog, brother. Damn, your life is gonna change, man.
Yeah, I'm super hyped. It actually feels like good drama too, actually.
What kind of dog is it specifically?
He's a Aussie Doodle.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't think they shed.
No, yeah.
Oh, because they're hyperallergenic. Oh, you're a lucky man.
To dogs.
You're a lucky man.
Yeah, man. Like it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Like we keep just like looking at photos and like we'll text each other and like, like, do you remember that we're getting a dog? And it's only been 3 days since we put the deposit down and we have like 27 left to go. So, but we're so excited. Like our life is just super ready for it. And I think,
I feel like you know when you know. It's kind of like, I'm trying to have that feeling about having a kid because I'm 24, still don't have a kid. Thank God. And I'm trying to hope that one day I'm like, you know what? I'm ready.
Yeah.
That is my goal. One of my big goals in life. And
yeah, I haven't had that either, but I feel like I've more recently inserted it into my head. Like, like, dude, you do want that. So trying to like allow the thoughts to populate.
Yeah.
Like
I'm trying to tell myself that too, that one day the circumstances will be good. And like, maybe they won't be, but just know that like you are ready whenever. But
I mean, you're always going to figure it out. Like,
always.
Yeah.
But it's just can't think of that right now. That seems so insane to have a kid,
dude,
that shit is so
doing
insane.
Your best for a kid is crazy to think about when you like really actually just think about doing your best in general. Just like, what does that really mean?
We gotta hit one for the future kids right now. Right. This one's for you, baby. Right. If it's a girl or if it's a boy, it's a baby boy, I guess.
All right, I'm gonna go to the beach.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Shit, but whatever.
Man, I really look like the guy who smokes a lot of weed. Damn.
Well, this is a tie-dye shirt, man. I think you just gave it away. And the beanie is taking on like an orangish, like pinkish hue from the lights. So you really like, you're just radiating right now, bro.
Are you seeing me on the other screen?
Let me put your big screen real quick. Oh yes. Dude,
I'm gonna go to the beach.
After this, I am so dead serious. I really want to go to the beach.
Yeah,
we should take a trip. We should literally take a trip when everything opens up. Like, give us a little bit of time, but like we should plan on like just a quick like Cali trip or like some beach trip somewhere, because
Yeah, bro, I'm down. I mean,
that would
like,
be so dope.
yeah, we could even plan a trip. Have you guys done like Seaside, Long Beach? Like, have you guys Astoria?
Yeah. We've went there. I stayed at Lincoln City
Oh yeah, that's a cool
in
place.
February. It was cool. So,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
different.
if we do that, that would be so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really easy too. It's like 2 hours away. But,
yeah, we could do two. Like, but we could also do. I was just gonna say we could even go down as like a cheap night if me and you are like,
Yeah.
hey, we need to get some creation done. Like, let's get some content. Let's like get some shit written. Let's like fucking
let's go out and film.
yeah. Like let's
you know.
leave the house with like a list of like, all right, we got to at least get these things done. Like,
Mhm.
so it's kind of like a work trip, but also because like we have so much fun when we're creatively working. But kind of set some rules around it, set some boxes and boundaries around it, and we could just go down to like Astoria and fucking get some like crappy hotel and just go to the beach and get drunk at midnight, but bring a notepad, you know?
Sick.
Yeah,
I like
cool.
where your head's at, bud.
Yeah, hell yeah, bud.
That's the beanie of knowledge right there.
The knowledge, the
Knowledge.
biology.
How do you? We can wrap it up soon because I know life is happening, but. What I wanted to ask you is, how do you believe that someone can start like getting smarter and attaining knowledge? Because it's such a hard thing to like pick back up, like either reading or like just studying some sort of something in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you think a good way is to like start implementing or like start getting back to like a consciously learning mind, I guess?
I think I'm definitely willing to share how I did it, but I also would say before that is when I guess I did do this, learn how you learn.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how you learn. You know, especially now, you don't have to be diagnosed with like ADHD or like not good memory or not being able to focus or like you'll just notice that things that you don't have a ton of interest on, if you're not getting paid to do it, you're not going to pay that much attention to it. It's just kind of like how our brain has been given so much fucking stimuli that we're just it's just how it is.
We're just buzzing hard.
Yeah. So just learn how you learn. And here's what, and I'll give you my personal examples. Maybe this doesn't work for everybody, but so what I mean by that, books. I used to read so many books when I was younger. I loved reading books. I was like the kid who like read, I was like a step of like whatever book the class was going to read. I had already read it. Like, I loved like reading like the Harry Potter books, like up until 4, I think was out when I was in school. Lord of the Rings. Like I just loved getting into these fantasy worlds. And I was like, when I first started, I was like, dude, I want to bring reading back. Like that was like, I know I used to love reading. Reading's good. You got to be reading. And I realized that like I have no way to sit still. Like I like can't sit still. I have like ADHD. I start obsessively thinking about things. Like I can't seem to just sit down and read a book. Like I would try and try and try and try and try. And so I was like, well, I'm not giving up. I'm not just going to say, well, I guess reading's not for me. My brain has developed and this is it, and sit in the sand, because that's just not what I agreed to do. Like, you know, like I said, when you build that third, that strong other, or that, you know, that strong other self who steps in the ring, that's a tough guy. He doesn't take no for an answer, right? So I was like, okay, so the old way that I was learning, the way that I used to read, the way that everybody else seems to read, doesn't seem to be working out. Like I want to read, that's a huge thing. That unlocks all the doors, right? Like once you can like make yourself sit and read umpteen hours a day or 1 hour a day or whatever amount a day, you unlock a door into all this knowledge, right? So, but I couldn't seem to learn. I couldn't seem to get this childhood like joy of getting lost in the story to where I can't have my foot twitching and I can sit for longer than 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It is I bought the book that I was trying to read. I bought it on audiobook and I put it in my headphones and I went for a run and I kept running, and I set a goal before I started running. I was to finish this fucking book, and I kept running. And so I finished it, and this is just, not everybody's going to do this. It's crazy. I live extreme sometimes because I need to like push past these Mr. Hyde self-deprecating, you know, bad thoughts. So I ran, and it's like 14 miles or something, and I finished the audiobook. The book was profoundly great. It was a book on Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. It's on resistance. So it was literally like a voice in my ears telling me about resistance and how I can beat it. So
Oh my
great
God.
with it. But so audiobooks, and so
Must
the
felt
thing
like
is,
Rocky.
yeah, oh no, yeah, and that's the thing is you got to like
Yeah.
believe you're Rocky, like it's like
Yeah.
explore into it. What would it feel like to believe that I'm Rocky right now? You know,
Mm-hmm.
those sort of things. So I think learning how you learn, and so learning how I learned is in never taking no for an answer. Like so, what I've learned is that to this point, I'm great at, I'm a daily meditator, great at meditation. I almost just said that. What a silly thing to say, but I meditate often and I'm able to sit still in those moments, but I still am not super able to absorb knowledge and read. So reading again, what that taught me when I ran and read that audiobook was like, okay, running and reading audiobooks, that's an option. Also there's a ton of lectures and things that I can listen to without watching on YouTube. That's an option to do while running, while going for a walk in my headphones. And so I started kind of adding these things up. Like, so how can I consume more books and how can I learn more? And so I started down here, adding on to that. I would put it on my speakers out here. And I would let it play, or get all the vibes right, get all the smells right, get all the lights right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to read this for an hour. I'm going to read this for whatever. I'm going to read this, try to set a little goal for myself.
Sounds like a beautiful reading experience, by the way.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Just set it all up.
I know it's like a silly thing to do money-wise, but if you really want to, like, if this is that important to you, if your future later on is more important to you. So I would get, I have a couple books that I have the audiobook version that I would let play, and I also have the physical copy, and I would sit with a highlighter, and I would pace back and forth because ADHD, and I can't seem to sit down and read a book, but I would like get stoned. Sometimes that helps me just kind of like be able to relax. And pace back and forth and listen to the audiobook as I either take notes and stand at the bar, or I highlight as it's, oh, that was pretty profound. And so I don't get all distracted, like, oh, I need to go write that down, or I need to go do this, or I have this thought about it. It keeps bringing me right back. And when I'm like, okay, I highlighted. So it's learning how you learn, right? Like, so over the years, I've adapted this like crazy, can't sit still, whatever. Like, so that's how I learn now. Like, so I think that's a huge thing that everybody should work on, because I think maybe other people, I know people who they learn by going to a busy area, like a Starbucks or somewhere where there's other people, maybe like a park, or this may be hard to get to right now with the current quarantine, but go somewhere where there's other people where you can hear background noise. Grocery store, if there's like a little cafe in it, you know, whatever, you can hear in the background. And they work well when they could hear other people in the background, and they could focus, they could flow. Like that pulls me way out of it. So I find the way that I learn, I'm able to be here and really envelop my whole, like just throw what I'm trying to envelop at my face and just make sure I'm focused on it. If I was just listening to it in headphones at like a cafe, maybe I wouldn't pay attention to that, because that's not how I learn. So learn how you learn, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's what's crazy, is the school system is not like that. And so that's why it's hard for a lot of people to learn after they get out of school, is because you've literally been learning in a general sense. You're learning for the masses and not for the individual. You know what I mean? So it may not fit everyone's cup of tea when it comes to that style of learning. So when you get to the real world in your own life, you literally are uneducated on so much, because one, they never taught you it in school, and two, they never taught what works best for your learning style.
Yeah, well, and you were punished for not learning it their way.
Yeah, exactly. And then like,
not punished like beaten, but like literally saying, no, you have to do it like this, even though you're like, why wouldn't you do it like this? I got to the same answer.
Yeah. And it's just so insane that like you just get out of this. You've never had a chance before you could even start, because you go to a job and you're literally like, hey, I want to work for you. They're like, okay, well, like, what was your most recent, degree or diploma or anything like that? It's like high school. It's like, all right, well, I couldn't get to college because I literally couldn't understand absolutely anything. And they're like, well, we only take college people. So even if you are good for the job and you've learned like the trade itself, like you didn't pass our standards. So it's just nuts. Like that. So
silly. Like
that
what is
concept.
That? Like to crush someone, to crush someone. So like with such a, oh man, like say like, no, you can't be that. Like whatever you feel like you are,
Yeah.
you can't be that. You have
Mhm.
to be this or you're not accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
So
like,
weird.
what? You want me to give a institution $100,000 to tell me shit that I could look up online, and not necessarily saying you wouldn't learn anything new, just saying that knowledge is knowledge. Like,
Mhm.
it's an idea. You're making me pay $100,000 for an idea to implement into my life and
Right.
know it to be true. What? Like,
Right.
100,000 just to make numbers round, just for 4 years of someone's developmental stages in their life, where they're not a kid anymore at random and now have to be an adult at random and say, hey, we're going to get you in debt for the rest of your fucking life, but we'll tell you what you need to know to get a job to make sure that you will maintain and never have this debt consume you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's just
What a
like,
shackle, bro. It's like,
what?
hey, bro, I saw you float. I saw you floating in the water. Could you hold this boulder for a second?
Yeah.
Could you just hold on to this,
You're like,
bro?
no, I got it.
Here, could you take this?
I
You're
got
good.
it.
Trust me, it's all good. This is the life that you want us at the bottom. Like,
Yeah. This is the life that you dreamed about, bro.
yeah, we
It's
think,
just
but
like,
we don't have to
what?
carry that, man. We can let go of that boulder, and you can figure out what works for you. Like
Mhm.
now more than ever. Because a lot of people aren't gonna have a job right now. Like a lot of people aren't.
Mhm.
The way that people are going to be reintroduced back into the world, I don't think is going to be business as usual. I think that
Mhm.
a lot more people may have to or have the opportunity to like explore like shit, man, what do I want to do now? Like
Yeah, it's
what
literally a time for people to
yeah,
think like,
like what's important to me? Like what gosh, man, like is making $2 more an hour worth me not really vibing with my coworkers, like because I just
mhm.
like that, maybe you got just a crazy bunch of negative coworkers, but you make that extra moolah so you can buy more whatever on the weekend,
Mhm.
so I don't know, I guess that's skipping too far ahead, but I think that
No, it
good
gets
time
there
to good
real
time to look at the
quick.
way that you learn. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
So
gets there so quick. And once you get to a point where you are consumed by like the everyday thought and the mundane thought of like, I just have to go to work, I have to make the bills, and like it's just what I have to do to survive right now. Like if I stop, like my whole world would be shaken. I can't stop. You know what I mean? And now that the world has stopped for them, they're like, all right, well, look, now what? What are you gonna do?
mhm,
Like the world has stopped. Like
yeah.
nobody needs you right now. Like you literally, like the job that you do is not needed to
Hmm.
society at the moment. So like, God damn, like maybe I am like not as important to this job as I would want to be, or maybe like I'm not happy going there every day.
That
I
seems
could
like a
just start
terrible place to
fresh. You
be
know what I
in.
mean? Like I
Yeah.
could literally start fresh right now.
Yeah. Okay. So terrible. I was thinking it was such a sad place for people to be in, but I suppose you're right. Like it's maybe at first it's sad because it's scary. Like, geez, like what have I chosen to do
Yeah.
in my life? Like that's a weird thing to like ask yourself, and because you can't compare yourself there, you can't compare yourself to other people. The
Yeah.
only way you can compare yourself to is directly inside, and you have to say, like, what am I doing? Not what everybody else believes, like what everybody else wants me to do, what everybody else expects me to do. Am I really doing what I think that I want it? Like one day I'm gonna leave this world. Like,
Hmm.
am I heading towards the life that I want to say that I have lived? Like, have I really thought about that? So I think
Hmm.
that it's a scary place to be, but it's also like you were inherently optimistically um, wanting saying that it's a good thing. It's a good spot to be. It's a it's a it's a strong spot to be. Like, and I think
Hmm.
we're a lot of people who, if they haven't realized that they're there, maybe are going to be there, or I don't know. I just think a lot of people are going to have a change of career right
Hmm.
about now, if not coming soon. And I don't know if their careers are going to be business as usual, or if it's going to be
Hmm.
like more creators or more creative sides of humanity are going to have to
Hmm.
be like, you know what, I'm going to start that fucking business because I have the power to, for whatever reason. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on, but I don't know.
And I think it's nuts too that we're just in a time where obviously like technology is accelerating and technology is taking on jobs. And if somehow this like implemented a lot of like, we don't know if there's like, talking all woo here, but we don't know if they just said like, hey, you're fired, or like you're fired temporarily from this job, but they still need some sort of like accounting done or some sort of thing done, and they replace a computer software program that does it 10 times faster than you and automates it. Like, holy shit, like I'm gonna come back and they're like, actually we don't need you, sorry, that was a while and we only expected you to be gone for like 2 weeks, but actually you were gone for like 2 months. We can't have 2 months worth of work not gone, so we're just gonna plug this program in, and we've been fine and we're saving money, so why wouldn't we do this as a business? And it's like that's what people have to actually start realizing now, is that, hey, it's not a forever thing. Jobs aren't a forever thing. It's literally getting to a point where maybe some jobs are maybe a forever thing, but it's getting to a point where they're going to be taking up a lot of jobs in the future. We're becoming an extremely intelligent group of individuals on this planet. Like
monkeys
who are like fucking with God powers, you know?
Yeah.
They're really
our spears have been upgraded.
Yeah, our spears have been upgraded to this, like, I mean, the internet, I can go on all day about how insane it actually is, but
yeah.
we're getting,
how many people could be looking up the exact same thing at once? And
how many people just to look up anything at once, like,
yeah, just
anything,
that's so crazy.
Just to be able to communicate with you right now, and you're fucking miles and miles and miles away in real time,
like an hour and 15 minutes away.
Like, I can fly my drone and see what I'm flying in real time, and know that, like, if a fucking bird came to me, I can move it real time. Like,
right.
How is that possible?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like we've advanced so much. Do you think, I was thinking about when you were talking about jobs going away, I think that a huge thing that people are going to rub up against is identity. Like, we're going to have to rebirth our identities. We're going to have to like kind of like reassign our identities and rebuild our identities and dig up like what the root of our seed shells really were, because a lot of people's identities are caught up in the Western world, are caught up with their job. Like, we are our job. Like, hey, what's up? How are you? Like, it's literally the second thing. Like, I'm Brandon. Oh, what do you do? Like, that's who you are. Like, oh, I'm a photographer, or oh, I work in finance, or oh, I'm a business salesman. And then that leads the rest of your conversation. Like, the conversation is contained within that box of what that is. Like, but regardless, our identities are our default, like our comfort of who we know that we are. Like, we have formed our version of self, especially in the Western world. And I think I'm saying that because I hear it said more often than like really knowing. I haven't really traveled around the world much. Side thought, but so I probably just hear it, right? But either way, our self, our identity, the way that we live is supremely wrapped up in our jobs, our career, and where we're at on the edge of like humanity is we're like about to take, and kind of already have taken, this jump towards like, hey, like a crazy amount of people are not going to be able to identify with their job anymore. Like that's kind of like what scares people about like UBI and stuff.
And then think about what it feels like right now to not have a job, and then think like that's actually the same feeling that I'm going to get when this shit does happen. Like, you're getting to experience what it's going to be like to be abruptly not out of a job. And I mean, I'm pretty sure society will like ease into it, but it's inevitable. Like, the mass and most of the amount of people are on board to progress technology and on board to just like keep the shit going, because everyone's like, oh, new iPhone, like I'm taking that. Like, that's upgrading technology. And they're just
in fields with shotguns.
Yeah, there's definitely a few. That's where I have to, when I go to Lewis County, when I go to drive the back roads or anything, and I got some like real estate gigs, I'm like, oh shit, man, I gotta watch out for this drone. Like this guy has like some alpaca and a fucking turkey and some pigs, and he's just sipping on a beer in his front yard, and I'm like flying this like insane drone, just like you could just see him like, that's the future, that's the government I was telling you about.
FBI.
Fuck you, Cindy, I told you they were watching me. And just fucking boom.
Carol, that bitch.
Carol, that bitch. I'm telling you, it's really like that. A lot of people are cool and they understand that like that's a technology coming out, but some people are reluctant to change, especially out in Lewis County side of town.
It's terrifying for them. It goes against everything that they believe in. Like if you think of the traditional like Christian like firm believer, like Old Testament, even like the stern like good people, but a lot of like the technology is starting to really push into their beliefs. Like that was a broad example using Christians, I suppose. Just really a lot of religion, a lot of people's beliefs get like weird, and they're like, I don't know, it makes me feel uncomfortable when like the super big technology starts coming around. It's just like I didn't know that I'd have to question it like this. Okay.
And it's nuts when you see like a transformation in people too, where like they're super reluctant and they have a flip phone still, and then like a Christmas comes around and their significant other didn't know what they wanted to give them, and they're like, oh, I thought you wanted a new iPhone, so they give them one, and then they start using it, and then they start just becoming hooked on Facebook and like hooked on all this shit. And I'm like, I remember when you hated phone, like you hated the technology and all this stuff, and now you're like, look at this video, you know, like watch this video.
We don't understand it. We don't understand it until, you know, it's not that we could only understand
until it's too late.
But yeah, we get pulled into things, and you can't really understand them sometimes until it's like a retrospective, like, oh, okay, I get it now because I have one now, and I found things that I like, you know.
Absolutely. That's nuts, man. But I know that it has been a long and fun podcast, but life probably has to get going for me on my home life at the moment. So
yeah,
thank you for coming on and being the dopest man alive.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. This is super cool. I like it. It's weird being interviewed. I was saying that like I have to turn off my like, I'm the podcast host. Like, always.
Well, if you guys don't know, he is the host of JYL, Junkyard Love Podcast, JYLP, Julp.
The Julp.
The Julp
baby
podcast. This thing is a journey and an experience, just getting able to listen to the stories of some not only amazing people, but Jake, and being able to bring on these people and have such in-depth conversations about life and knowledge and wisdom and just being a human. So if you have not heard it, I would definitely say go check this out immediately before you even listen to this or finish this off. Actually, finish this off. Finish this off first, and then go check it out because it's awesome.
Cool. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for having me on. We'll have to do this more often.
All right, man. Love you, man.
Love you, bro. Yeah. Hit me up later.
Yeah, guys say that too, by the way. Guys definitely say that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely, man. Love you, bud.
For all humans.